It's a coal crisis in India too. The power minister warning that the country's energy crunch could drag on for another half a year. Electricity demand is surging and a slump in local coal output has meant those stockpiles are dangerously low. At the end of last month, power stations had an average of just 4 days worth of coal. Now, that is the lowest in years, and compare that with the average of some 30 days of coal it had in June last year. Now, India's Power Minister Rajkumar Singh says the situation has deteriorated in the past week, and coal plants currently have less than 3 days of fuel stocks. Coal accounts for about 70% of India's electricity generation, and consumption is expected to rise over the next few years. We go to Rebecca Bundan in Mumbai now. Well, Rebecca, crisis seems severe. What's being done to resolve it in the immediate term, and who is on the priority list?
Yes, so the government is working with state-run Coal India, which is responsible for 80% of India's coal output, and NTPC, which is the country's largest power generator, to try to increase the amount of coal that's being mined. But that's a challenge to dramatically ramp that up in a matter of days or in the very near term, because although India has the fourth largest coal reserves in the world, it's actually very, very heavily dependent on imports, and it's the second largest importer of coal. And that's why it's facing this challenge at the moment, because coal prices have risen globally and India's dramatically reduced its imports that are coming in, resulting in this supply crunch now. So that's really the big challenge for the country, which could eventually lead to widespread power outages. In terms of who's on the priority list, the power minister there has indicated that it's those utilities that have been keeping up with their payments to coal companies that will be given priority for domestic stocks, which are very, very limited at the moment.
Now, the government has asked Coal India to invest in EVs, electric vehicles, and charging stations, but clearly this would take a while.
Yeah, so the green push by the government, the Narendra Modi government, is very focused on moving towards greener energy, green solutions like electric vehicles, ramping up the use of renewables, particularly solar energy, to diversify away from fossil fuels. But clearly this is going to be something that takes a long time. It's going to be a solution for the longer term, but not for the near term, particularly considering that that coal accounts for 70% of India's electricity production, and it's going to be dependent on coal for some time to come. It's not going to be able to move away from its dependence on coal in the near future, especially given the fact as well that India's demand for energy is only rising as the economy grows with urbanization trends. Its appetite for energy is growing at the same time. So coal is going to remain king for some time in India.
And, how badly could this power crisis derail India's economic recovery?
That's really the big worry at the moment, because India's just starting to see a recovery in its economy after that massive second wave of infections earlier this year that resulted in fresh lockdown restrictions being imposed. Then after that, the economy started to open up. Factories have got back online, which is in turn actually adding to this supply crunch on coal because of the massive surging demand for energy in the country as the economy has opened up. But there's a concern that this could partly derail some of that recovery, because if it impacts factories, if it impacts businesses with power outages, which are expected if this crisis continues, that's going to have a massive effect. Also, we have to consider the fact that there are those non-power companies as well that use coal, and because of the domestic shortage, because of the supply crunch, they're going to have to turn to imports, which are more costly for them. So it has a number of implications for the economy, and there are really big concerns about that at the moment.
Well, thanks for that. Rebecca Bundan in Mumbai.